It's time to be about that life, the startup life. Here's your host, Dominic Lawson.
All right, Startup Nation. So I hope you're ready to receive some value today. My name is Dominic Lawson, and this is the Startup Life, the show for entrepreneurs and career-minded professionals. You know, Startup Nation, all of us who are on this path, this journey of entrepreneurship, you know, we need to have a lot of, things in our arsenal, right? Great business plan, target audience nailed down and stuff like that. But one of the things we always have, I don't care what business you're in, got to have a marketing plan, some type of marketing strategy, which is why we have an amazing guest today. We have a serial entrepreneur and digital marketer, Darwin Liu. Darwin, what's up, man?
How's it going? Thanks for having me, Dominic.
Oh, no worries, man. Once again, just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show. And before we kind of dive into our conversation today, man, just kind of share, 2020 was one for the record books, man. Let's be honest, man, no matter how you look at it. But just kind of like, what were some takeaways, some lessons learned for you and your team and personally, man, that you took away from 2020?
Yeah, I'd say a bunch of things, right? For marketing, new industries were created for the most part. We had clients that basically went bankrupt, but we had other clients that just skyrocketed. Food delivery companies, some e-com companies,
Right.
People are just changing their whole buying behavior because of 2020. So for marketing, at the end of the day, it really just proves that, you can market almost anything and nothing really dies down. Industries will die, say shopping at grocery stores or whatever it is, but marketing itself is always going to grow. So that's one thing that, we should definitely keep top of mind. Business lessons, right?
Right.
I think COVID's a tough year for a lot of people in terms of running their company, in terms of being productive, in terms of how to actually change or pivot based off of how, say, COVID happened, right? So I definitely learned that, a new way of running a company. I always thought that you had to be there in person to do a lot of things, but hey, not at all, man. I actually like being alone, totally in the office by myself. So.
Gotcha. You like to, as my son likes to do, social distance a little bit. So I definitely understand that. My son only comes down three times a day, from breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So I definitely know what you're talking about there for sure.
He just doesn't want to see you, man,
Yeah, I know, right? But let me ask you this, man. Like, have you seen, we're talking about marketing and stuff like that. You're an expert in the digital marketing space. Did you see any innovations in the marketing aspect that you kind of saw people implementing, because like I said, man, things like a adversity and crisis or whatever, they kind of spur new ideas and new innovations, man. Have you seen anything, or did you create anything during that time?
Well, I'd say a couple of things, right?
Okay.
So, again, it depends on what kind of marketing you're doing.
Sure.
For the local small business stuff, a lot of our clients, for the most part, they do add all of the local, say, pieces to a local marketing plan. So things like we are, buy in store, curbside pickup. We are COVID free for the gyms out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
They even have is for Black owned businesses nowadays. So those are a couple of things that are sort of innovative. For us, it really was sort of, and this is sort of our model, which is always to do what others aren't doing, right? During COVID, a lot of people weren't marketing. For some reason, they thought that, the economy must have been crap, that things weren't going to sell. But that was perfect for us because we actually continue marketing. We were able to get a lot of our clients to do it. And during this time, without competitors, what do you think happens? Our cost per clicks were cut by I'd say somewhere around 300%. Right. So that's sort of the innovative piece, right? Which is really, stop following what everyone else is doing. It's if you think that everyone else is doing this and you're reading the articles and they're all telling you to do this, do something else.
Gotcha. No, I appreciate that. One of the things that we get asked about all the time, social media and ads and stuff like that. Who do I go with? Do I go with Facebook? Do I go with Instagram? Do I go with LinkedIn and stuff like that? And we get a myriad of answers in that regard. But what I want to ask you is this, man, because there's a lot of sponsored ads out there on social media and stuff like that. How does one stand out, amongst the crowd? Because you see this sponsored ad here, see this sponsored ad there, and they all kind of look the same after a while. How do you stand out with your ad, with your company when it comes to those social media ads, Darwin?
Great question, Dominic. And this is the funny thing that we always preach, and this goes back to my earlier point about doing something different than what everyone else does.
Right.
We look at things differently. I've worked in the agency world for, 8+ years, right? I've done marketing for 14+ years. Everything I read on the blogs or everything that people talk about whenever they take over an account is, hey, let me do some creative testing. Let me go fix your ad. Let me do X, Y, Z to your ad, right? So they're like, let me make your ad stand out.
Right.
For at least here, the ad comes second or third or fourth. It's actually not even on the forefront.
Gotcha.
What we really care about is running a correct marketing system where we can get our ad in front of as many eyes as possible at a fraction of the price. So let me try to explain that a tiny bit.
Right.
A lot of people are focused on the creative, on the branding itself, and that's hard to systemize. That's hard to come in and say that's hard. It's hard to create an avatar for your company and just say, hey, how do I write my message so it appeals to him, right?
Right.
It's actually better to actually figure out how to cut my CPCs by, say, 900%. So then the next person is paying $1, I'm paying 10 cents. I don't give a crap how my ads look. At the end of the day, if I'm getting my ads out to 10 times more people than the next guy, I'm going to make.
Darwin, you still there?
Yeah. Did that make sense? Or did I get cut off?
Oh, no, for some reason you cut out right then and there. The last thing I heard, you were talking about if somebody has, maybe not as good as look as ad, but they're getting out to more people. That's the last thing I heard. I'm sorry about that, man.
Oh, no. That's my fault. I fidget a lot and I move around a lot. So that's let me try to hold the phone closer.
Gotcha.
So, at the end of the day, if I can get my ad out to 10 times more people than the next guy with the same budget, then I can care less about how my ad looks. Gotcha. Like my ad is getting seen 10 times more than the next guy. Like I'm going to make money regardless. Gotcha.
No, that makes complete sense. And I appreciate that. And Startup Nation, if you want to check out some of the stuff that Darwin has going on, make sure you check out XAgency.com. We have a link there in the show notes for easy access if you listen to the replay on the podcast, man. Let me ask you this, man. SEO, man. We a lot of people are trying to maximize, that part of their marketing strategy and stuff like that. What are some of those tips that you're kind of, helping out with your clients and stuff like that? What are some of those tips, Darwin, if you don't mind?
Yeah. So a couple of things, which is sort of the what's the word? Stewards or the foundation, right? I mean, you have to make sure your on page matters. That's been here since Google's been implemented. A couple of new things that everyone has to really think about is sort of always put yourself in the customer's shoes. So Google is in the business of search results, right? So if they give bad search results, what happens? People go to Bing. So always use that lens when you're trying to optimize your content, when you're trying to write something, when you're trying to do SEO. And if you can use that as your guiding light, a lot of things become easy. So a couple of examples for you would be readability, how long people stay on the page, right? That stuff matters now. So think about it this way. If Google gives a search result, that someone gamified, and then someone sort of did all the black hat techniques on it, and they go on the page, and then the page actually totally sucks, and then people leave right away, that affects it, right? So that's an easy formula to look at it if you're trying to optimize your page. A couple of things is long form content obviously matters even more now, just because, in the new age, the longer people stay on the site, the better. Readability. Couple of more important things really is web vitals. So it's, page speed has been something that they've always sort of pushed, but they've never really pushed it out there in terms of what kind of scoring you need, right? Coming to the future, really, web vitals is sort of, I don't even know how to explain it. I think it's governed by like Web Development International body. And if you go to Chrome and you download the Web Vitals plugin, you can easily check your own website, but you need to get greens on all of them for a boost on your site. So that's one thing that's sort of new. There's a lot of articles out there saying backlinks don't matter anymore. That's fake. Backlinks still matter. If you want to think about it, there's 1,000 people writing about the same product or the same industry. Something has to really push you guys above the rest, right? And it's really still backlinks. Okay, so just keep that top of mind. Backlinks will always matter.
For sure. No, I have heard that, but it just seems like that part still matters because I think it just seems to go once again, like, if somebody says, oh, backlinks don't matter, then a whole bunch of people kind of like, move away from that. And then all of a sudden, there you are right there, utilizing those backlinks, and they can be quite beneficial. Again, going against I guess not necessarily going against the grain, but putting yourself out there to do what's different, like you've been kind of preaching in this episode. So I appreciate that advice, man.
No problem.
I want to ask you this, man, because, look, let's be honest, man. There's a lot of digital marketers out there. There's a lot of people who kind of do the same space that you do. But let's be also honest, man. There's a lot of people out here, scamming people, jipping people out of their money, stuff like that. You know what I mean? I guess I want to ask you this, man. If I'm a small business owner, clearly I don't have a war chest of like marketing dollars, right? So I got to be very strategic and very intentional about my marketing dollars. What are some red flags I need to look for, but, or not necessarily red flags, but what I need to look for in general, right before I hire a marketing agency? What questions should I ask? Kind of walk me through that if you don't mind, man.
Yeah. So, we're in a different industry, right? So we focus on sort of the mid-to-price e-com industry, but I do help a bunch of small business owners to help them find the right people. Mm-hmm. And I do into the same kind of questions a ton. A couple of them really are this, right? I think anyone can be an expert at Facebook nowadays. You pay $20 for a Udemy course, and then you're an expert, right? One of the most important questions really would be, can that agency or can that consultant figure out the right metrics / KPIs? If they're coming at you saying, we got this many so-and-so impressions or clicks for our last client, that's a red flag, right? We want people who actually care about revenue, regardless if it's leads or whatever or offline. There's a way to connect it. So we want the agency that actually cares about the revenue instead of just these false KPIs, if that makes sense. That's one.
For sure.
Two would be how big are their clients, right? If they are focused on small businesses, great. That's you fit right in there. But if you are, say, one of their smallest clients, you already know that they're not going to put any sort of care or time into your account, right? So definitely ask them what kind of clientele that do they usually service. Ask them for case studies. Ask them for referrals. I know a lot of small business owners are too afraid to ask for those things. But if you're going to pay them, say, $1,000 a month to manage your stuff, you definitely want to have good referrals from them.
For sure. Thank you for sharing that. I want to switch gears here just a second. Once again, Startup Nation, we're talking to Darwin Liu, serial entrepreneur and digital marketer here on The Startup Life. I want to ask you this, man, because a lot of people are getting in this e-commerce game, right? Like they're selling products online and stuff like that. I guess I just want to ask, man, as an industry leader, man, like anything in life, man, too much of a good thing can be a bad thing, right? So everybody's getting in the e-commerce game and stuff like that. Where do you see e-commerce evolving over the next couple of years in your regard? We know Amazon is the king, right? But all of us as little people, we're trying to carve a little piece out for ourselves, right? So I guess I'm just curious, as an industry leader, where do you see e-commerce kind of going, here in the next couple of years, in your opinion?
Yeah, so a couple of thoughts on this. Sure. E-commerce is growing. A lot of our offline companies are going online, right? They know that e-com is where it's at. Right. So DTC, direct to consumer, is what we call it. That's definitely a market that's growing. One. Two is all these marketplaces are coming out to fight Amazon, so that's going to grow too. Right. Target marketplaces, Walmart marketplaces. The regular person can actually sell things there now. Obviously, you have to pass them checks. But that's obviously growing as well. So for the regular guy out there, just think about that. There's more places for you to sell things now if you're actually going to get into the game. Right. Three is if you guys are going to jump into e-com, right? I know that drop shipping was huge, say, I think 2 years ago. Everyone pushed it everywhere. It still works. I have a bunch of friends who are doing high ticket dropship items. So what they're doing is, they're buying $5,000 products and they're basically selling those, right? Versus the standard product that you can get out there. Unless, of course, you can cut out the middleman, you can go directly to, say, China or whatever for drop shipping clientele, then that works. But other than that, like if you do have a middleman, if you're doing the small ticket items, I haven't seen that work that well recently just because the market's oversaturated, right? For sure. And then four really is, too much of a good thing is a bad thing. But I think what most people who start out a company don't understand is that it usually isn't the what that you do, right? Someone can sell a pet rock and they can make money. It's actually, the why and the how you do or how long you're going to invest your time into this. Because at the end of the day, I think it's a certain formula it takes to actually get something going and running correctly, right? And I think a lot of people don't understand or don't have that. They want the get rich quick scheme, they want to buy the games, the thing that's going on right now. So all the stock issues coming out right now, right? So they just need to understand that there isn't really a get rich quick scheme. I think anything works. E-com definitely works. They just have to be ready to invest their time into it.
For sure. Look, quick follow-up question. Do you think will always be a place for brick and mortar? Like I said, I know e-commerce is growing, but do you think there'll always be a place, whether it be maybe not as big as it is now, but will there always be a place for brick and mortar stores and stuff like that, in your opinion?
Yeah, 100%. Things like companies like Best Buy, right? They
Right.
pivoted and they've changed the metric for the in-store. People who go in-store now really aren't there. They don't focus a quote profit for a Best Buy store just based off how much they sell. It's really the geek squad. It's people coming in and checking out products, right? So yeah, 100%. People still need to go in store to see things, and as long as the companies understand that and change the way they measure store value, then it works. Even for what we do online, say Google Ads, Facebook Ads, Google Analytics. We do measure in-store traffic. We measure people who go in-store. We also measure in-store value, how many people buy in-store. Right. It's definitely not going away. It's definitely going to, drop a little bit, but as long as people pivot, it's still going to be there. It won't play as big as a part as a long time ago. Malls are shutting down everywhere. However, again, we do need to go in-store for some items.
For sure. I'm actually curious as to see what they do with like those big department stores, like the space it sells, like the big department stores, big malls. Like, I'm curious how somebody will possibly repurpose that space or maybe even that building. But that's another conversation for another day. Once again, Startup Nation, we're talking to Darwin Liu, serial entrepreneur and digital marketer. He's also the founder of AmericanBully.com, an online company that sells premium apparel and accessories for bullet breeds. Make sure you check out that website, Startup Nation. That's AmericanBully.com. Darwin, let me ask you this, man. What excites you as a business owner and an entrepreneur? I know it's kind of a trendy word to kind of, people call themselves entrepreneurs and stuff like that these days, but what's something that excites you as a business owner, as an entrepreneur living in the now?
Yeah, and it's funny you said that just because I try not to throw around the entrepreneur word too much, right? Just because everyone does. As a business owner, what I would say is really that, I've failed and I've succeeded. And for me, it's really being able to live life the way I've wanted, right? Like I'm able to do my own thing. I'm able to fail if I want to. I'm able to try something even though it's scary. So for me, it's really being able to live life on my own terms. Right. When, in high school, I interned at a company called State Street, and it's the most boring place in the world. And the people there were working there for 10, 15, 20 years, and they just hated their lives, right? Gotcha. They want to do things, but they couldn't. So for me, right, I can get up in the morning. I can go to work if I want to. Obviously, I work a crap ton, but still, it's like I have the choice to do what I want to do. So that's like my excitement of being an entrepreneur.
Gotcha. I'm curious about something. That place you said you worked at for a while. What are some things that you learned from that place? Because I know a lot of times, not everybody starts off as an entrepreneur. They start off, in corporate America, some kind of place like that. What are some lessons that you learned, from either there or from your other times in the marketing space where you worked for somebody?
Yeah. So, this is the most important thing that I definitely learned from my internship, right? Yeah. And just, what the internship was, I worked at State Street. I think they were the largest custodian for stock trades, right? Gotcha. What ended up happening was I would go in there every single morning, and then it would be I would just hit a button day in and day out. I was a cog in the wheel. Okay. Right. So it was boring. It was a horrible job. But what I learned from that really is that, a lot of small businesses don't flourish because they don't focus on the systems. They run their company and then they think that they can do everything and they think that it's all about the people, but it really isn't. I tell everyone here at XAgency that we need to get to the point where it's so boring that everyone does the same stuff day in and day out. When you're a startup, it's super fun because you don't have any systems. You're right. Just doing things off the cuff. But what I really learned was that if we can get to the boring point where the company runs on its own, then you're golden. Then you can just sit back and chill. You can go on vacation because the company will run itself. The sales will come in, the numbers will come, the revenue will come.
I hear that. I'm reminded of a Warren Buffett quote. A great company is one your idiot brother can run. So I definitely understand what you mean by that, man. Let me ask you this, man, because, in your, whether it be, any time in your career in marketing, you say you've been doing this for 14 years, whether it been, for somebody or even, for yourself. Talk about a time, man, where you got like a big client, big contract or something like that. And you're like, oh, damn, I gotta perform, man. Kind of walk me through that process, that mindset of like, when it's time to lace them up, man, you lace them up and you perform well.
Yeah. So, guys like, and I watch these guys all the time, guys like Jordan and Kobe Bryant, right? Like, or Brady, they're able, they're there because they're able to perform when it's the buzzer shots, right? So, for me, there was a big client that basically made or broke XAgency when we first started. I knew him from my old company that I worked at, and I emailed him after 2 years just so that I can say, hey, I don't know how you're doing, but, I started my own agency and I can come in and run your stuff. You remember me clearly, right? He was like, yeah, set up a meeting and we'll talk over the phone. I was like, no, I'll fly down there. So I flew all the way from Boston to Cali, just sold him on the spot, and I was able to just take the account. In terms of performance, I think to be an entrepreneur, you do have to be somewhat, I don't know the exact word, but cocky, right? You do have to think that your abilities are godlike. So for me, it was always like, if I can just get the account, I know 100% I can perform. So got the account, we were able to perform, we were able to do amazingly well. I think we took them from 50 million to almost 100 million within a year. So everything's been good so far.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm just always fascinated and thank you for that. I'm just always fascinated when I hear stories like that. A lot of times, man, like we see so many people out there, they have great ideas, they have, great work ethic or whatever the case may be. But it's like a lot of times it just boils down to confidence, man. You know what I mean? You have the confidence to go, to fly from Boston to California and make something happen, man. That's just crazy to me. Go ahead, man. It sounded like you were trying to say something. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that you're 100% right. I think that whenever we see someone successful, I think the first thing I hear from the guy next to me is, oh, he's so smart, like he made this or whatever. And I always go, it's never about the idea. It's really about the balls to actually go do it. It's usually the dumbest people who actually are the most successful because they're just too stupid to understand failure, right? They just keep going and going and going. So yeah, it's really confidence. I would say one of the most important traits that an entrepreneur needs, because we are our own biggest enemies, right? And the majority of us are shooting ourselves in our own foot. For sure.
Appreciate you sharing that. Once again, Startup Nation, we're actually wrapping up with Darwin Liu, digital marketer and serial entrepreneur. Make sure, once again, you go check out XAgency.com. We have a link there in the show notes for easy access, and also AmericanBully.com, an online company that sells premium apparel and accessories for bully breeds. Hey, Darwin, man, look, I know people always who are business owners, people who enjoy the game of entrepreneurship, man. They're always sharpening the saws, always trying to make themselves better. That professional development piece is key for them, man. What is Darwin doing, man? You reading books, listening to podcasts, man? You going parasailing? What keeps Darwin fresh on his game, man?
Yeah, a couple of things, right? Sure. Definitely hitting the gym every single day. Being healthy does amazing things for the mind. Two really is, I listen to a lot of motivational tapes, whether it's Tony Robbins or Eric Thomas or, anyone, just because I think, motivation is sort of the kindle to the fire. There are days that I wake up that I don't want to do anything, but once you hear them talking, you just keep going. So yeah, Tony Robbins, Eric Thomas, those are definitely two people I listen to. Read books, listen to Audible, hit the gym, and you'll be golden.
For sure. I want to ask you something real quick, just kind of like a serious note, shift gears here. And it's tied into, and you kind of talked about this earlier. It's kind of tied to what you do in marketing and stuff like that. So, right now, here in America, there's a lot of, talk about social justice, social this, social that, issues and stuff like that. And we're seeing a lot of companies out there really, I'm not going to say pander, but they're really catering to selling to, people who are minorities, whether it be, of race, whether it be a sexual orientation, whatever the case may be, right? I guess from a marketing standpoint, how do you come off as being genuine and not maybe coming off as like just pandering? If that makes any sense?
The way I see it, it always looks like pandering to
Fair
me.
enough. Fair enough.
That's just my personal opinion, you know. I see it all the time, and I'm just like, are you guys trying to take advantage of what's going on right now?
Right.
Because you guys never did that in the first place. So,
right. No, that's fair. That's fair. That's definitely fair. Because like I said, I know a lot of people are kind of like, you know, like we're seeing the big tech companies. You're seeing Facebook and you're seeing, you know, the T-Mobiles and stuff like that. They're doing different things. And it's like, I'm always kind of like, it's like you want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but at the same time, it's kind of like, come on, we know why you're doing this and we know why you're doing it right now. So I'm kind of on the fence. I get what you mean by that, man, for sure.
Exactly, and I honestly hate it. You know, it just seems so fake. And again, that's just my opinion. So,
gotcha. No, you no, exactly. You know, and the thing is, we welcome all opinions, all thoughts of frames of thought and stuff like that on this show. So, no, you're definitely welcome to share that opinion, man, for sure. I appreciate that. For sure. Let me ask you this, man. You know, at the end of the day, man, when Darwin hangs up his sneakers or hangs up, you know, the in the game and you get the goal watch and you go off and set sail on retirement, man, what do you want people to remember you by? Like, man, Darwin was this, Darwin was that. What do you hope people will remember you by?
Yeah, there's one thing that I really do this for, right? So everyone needs their why, and mine really is to see if I can help as many people as possible. So what I'm hoping that they remember me for really is I was there for the people. I was there to help my parents. I was there to help my friends. And that's it. You know, I don't need anything crazy. I don't need anything, a celebrity like. It's just how many people I've helped.
Gotcha. Hey, talk about your parents a little bit, man. Talk about how important they've been for you and on your path and just growing up and creating the person that is Darwin today. Yeah,
so we grew up poor, right? Gotcha. And I think that the best quote that I've always heard was, the difference between someone being given $10,000 and someone earning $10,000 is what you learn from it. And I was able to truly see, what being poor was, and we were on food stands, and seeing them sort of struggle was really what drove me. I think to be successful as an entrepreneur, you do need that bigger why, the higher calling, because a lot of times you're going to want to throw down your flag, right? You're going to want to quit. There's going to be days that everything goes to crap and you just sit there and you want to cry. And it's really, how do you keep going? And unless you have that sort of bigger why, for me, it was really my parents, you're going to stop. So growing up poor was definitely, I hated it when I was young, but when I'm older, I'm finally like, wow, I actually learned a bunch of things that the majority of kids didn't have to do. They didn't have to, go through all the struggles that we had. So they didn't get to learn how to be independent, how to, do things on their own. So yeah, definitely they definitely had a huge impact on sort of where I'm at today.
I hear that. I appreciate that. And before I ask the last question, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show, and sharing your insights, sharing your knowledge, man. Startup Nation definitely can get a lot from it. And once again, Startup Nation, make sure you check out XAgency.com. We have a link there in the show notes for easy access, and also AmericanBully.com, an online company that sells premium apparel and accessories for bully breeds, man. So, earlier you talked about how, you listen to a lot of Tony Robbins, the hip hop preacher, E.T. himself, stuff like that. So I'm going to put you on the spot, man. Kind of share with us a little bit to take us out for the day, some words of encouragement, man, to take us out for the day, if you don't mind, good sir.
Yeah. So I don't know the exact quotes, right? But the one I listen from E.T. all the time, and I think everyone has heard it. It's about the one where the kid's trying to come up for air, right? Mm-hmm. And I thought there's a lot of kids too who sort of really, really start out, which is they always think that it's nice and fast, and they always think that they can come in and do it for the money. But if you've ever listened to this, and I listen to it all the time before I hit the gym, it's really, if that's all you want to do, if all you wanted was basically to start a company for money, it's not going to work. You have to want this as much as you want to survive, right? As much as you want to breathe. So that's sort of the closing line for everyone here, which is if you don't, make this a necessity, right? If you don't make your business success a necessity, it's just going to be just something good to have. And when it's just something good to have, you're not going to care. The times will be hard. That's a given. Every entrepreneur goes through times where it's super hard. And if you really can't fight through it, if you really can't want this more than you actually want to live, you're going to fail.
I hear that. And that's going to wrap up this session of The Startup Life. Once again, we want to thank Darwin Liu, serial entrepreneur and digital marketer, for coming on the show. Thank you so much, D. Liu.
No, thank you for having me, man. This is definitely fun, Dominic.
Oh, no worries. And as always, Startup Nation, if you have an idea, be about that life, The Startup Life. If you want to let us know what you think about our show, have an idea for a show topic, or would like to advertise on our show, send us a message on the Startup Life Podcast Facebook page. And while you are there, like and follow our page as well. It's a great way for us to engage with you, Startup Nation, and really grow our community. The link is there in the show notes. Subscribe to the show as it can be heard on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, Spotify, or even on your Facebook timeline or any other platform you like to get your podcast. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts and you find our content valuable, please give us a 5-star rating, as it will help us climb the charts and help more people find our show. You can also listen to the show on the Startup Life Podcast new website. There you will find the all-new startup blog where I write on many topics that are interesting and helpful to you on your path to entrepreneurship. And hey, if you have an idea, be about that life, the startup life.